Welcome to the Griffith University Careers and Employment Service Launch Your Career series. This seminar is on job search strategies, and we'll be covering strategies that are appropriate for part-time casual work all the way through to graduate employment and beyond. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting today, all of us in our different spaces and places, and pay my respect to the elders past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. So the learning objectives that we'll be covering today are listed on the slide. So we'll be looking at the job search process through a few different lenses. First, identifying all of the different opportunities that'll be out there for you, and then using our research skills to find and extend our knowledge of opportunities. And then we'll be looking at tactics. So how do we find a job? What do we need to do to find a job? And then finally, looking at the really important element of career resilience in the ever-changing job market. So let's think about how we plan our job search campaign. So if you are to be successful in your job search, the first thing that you're going to need is really good information, not only about, what opportunities are out there, but maybe even things that you haven't considered, ideas that you haven't considered about the types of jobs that might help you on your journey, but, are not necessarily visible right in front of you at the moment. So information is going to be the first part of it. The next part of it is, of course, having those really good, well-developed job hunting skills. And we really have to have quite a deep understanding of ourself to engage properly in the job search, thinking about where do we want to be, what skills do we have, what do we need to develop, understanding the labor market. So where are you most likely to find success? What opportunities fit you? And also really to plan it out well. And we'll be covering all of this as we work through our session today. So some questions to start us off, just some things that you might have a think about. And if you're joining late, you may not have seen the question that I popped into the chat, just before we started, which is, if you have job search questions that you're struggling with while we're on the session today, please pop them in so that we can address them. Today's session is also being moderated by my lovely colleague, Deanne, who has tremendous insight in this space as well. So for the next hour, you've got an opportunity to really hear it from the experts. If you do have questions, pop those in and we'll address those as we go. Some questions that might stir your questions, the questions that might get you reflecting, what types of jobs are realistically out there in my field? Why would I be interested in particular roles? Does my skills, education, experience match up to the jobs that I want? And thinking about yourself as well. So what do you offer? And, what is it about you that employers will really want, to work with? What types of organizations do you want to work with? What industry are you targeting? And also, what are your career needs and goals in the short to medium term? So, for instance, if you're studying now and most of your energy is focused on your study, your career needs might be, primarily financial, making enough money to support yourself through your program, but also picking up some relevant skills. Whereas in the medium term or the longer term, your career needs might look quite different. So what is your objective and how are you going to get there? And that's what we are going to be discussing today. And okay, that's just going to give us some animation. Here we go. So our top tip is really to adopt a targeted, proactive approach. So one of the things that we see when students come to see us when they're looking for jobs and they're not getting tremendous progress is that the approach is what we would call like a scattergun approach. They will jump onto seek.com, they'll see a few jobs, they'll apply for those jobs. They'll wait to hear from those jobs and won't do anything for a while. And then maybe they don't hear back from those jobs. And then they jump on a couple weeks later and kind of start the process all over again. So the problem with that is it's quite a reactive way to approach your job search. And just by looking at what's out there and responding to the opportunities that you see in front of you, it also doesn't take some really important things into account. And let's jump into what those are next. So the first step is to think about who am I as a person? What kind of values do I have, and what kinds of organizations is that really going to help me match up with? So when you identify your values, it will really help with your job search because it almost immediately makes clear the kinds of organizations that you should be targeting. And though you might think, oh, it maybe is hard to figure this out, or it might take me a lot of time, it actually does provide you with a lot of really good information to make career decisions and to focus your job search. So what are values? Values is just having an awareness of what is important to you in your career. And it obviously will help you to explore your goals and explore options and find satisfaction in your work. And this, you could also call this your purpose. So, finding your purpose is another language or term that we put around values. The next one is to really look at our interests. So interests are really closely related to values, and our interests often trigger our skill development. So in reflecting on your interests, it's important to think about what are those enduring themes in your life? What activities have you been involved with over a long time that you never seem to lose fascination with? Things that you make consistent choices about. So, about the way you spend your time, about the way that you'll structure things in your life so you can do certain other things. So these really can provide some insights into what our interests are. And often we can find jobs that align really well with the things that we are interested in. The last part of it comes down to our skills and strengths. So what are the things that you do really well? What comes naturally to you? What kinds of things do you do that give you energy? So maybe you're a really great communicator and you love to talk to people. And every time you talk to people, you get a lot of energy from that and a lot of satisfaction from it. And you also do it really well. So communication would be one of your top skills. So recognizing your skills and your strengths and communicating these in writing through your job applications or even verbally can really help you with your job search. And when we understand what we're good at, it often gives us that bit of clarity when we're speaking to potential employers or we're writing an application for a potential employer that many job seekers don't have because they aren't able to articulate their values, their interests, and their skills. So if you are interested in finding out more about any of this and diving into your values, your interests, your skills, and your strengths, you can find a lot of information and self-help assessments in our SharePoint website. So there's some great resources in the resume module, and there's also some really good resources in the career management module and evidencing skills modules to assist with these. Okay, so moving on. So when we think about the next step, so once we've got that knowledge of self, it's now time to explore what's out there. And as university students, you would be using your research skills all the time in the classroom. It's the, what gets you through the day as a student. but often we don't think to use our research skills when we're looking for a job or to use them in our job search. So the next step would really be to start to use your research skills and explore your career options. And this really takes them, takes all of that self-knowledge and starts to match it up to genuine labor market options. So research for job search, what does that consist of? So some questions here to really get you thinking. Can you identify employers in your field of interest? So aligned to your major, do you already know who you would like to work for and why would you like to work for those people? If you don't know employers in your field, then that might be a sector or a section of research to really jump into. We find when we're talking to students within careers and employment who come in for career consultations, that many of them are often aware of the biggest employers in their field, sort of that top tier, for lack of a better term, but they're not aware of, the slightly smaller companies that might sit underneath that, who still have great opportunities and lots to offer as employers. So that first step is really understanding the employers in your field of interest and getting a deeper knowledge. Secondly, when we think about those employers that we're really targeting, do we understand what they want? So what are they looking for? What are their values? Because organizations have values too. And how can you demonstrate a match to those values? And, what other things are they looking for? So, organizations look for a different mix of experience and knowledge and skills and education based on the different types of roles. So when you understand the needs of organizations, you're able to target your job search much better because you know where you fit right now, but you also know how to manage your career so that where you want to fit in the future, what you need to do to get there. Another question that we might consider is, how up to date are you on current trends in your field? So what's going on? So for people in your industry, are there any upheavals? Are there any new developments that are really affecting practice in your industry? What opportunities might these create? So this is really looking ahead to, all universities are dealing, or not universities, sorry, all industries are dealing with a bit of digital disruption and, of course, other types of disruption to the way that they work. So thinking about the way that these disruptors impact the jobs might give you insight into opportunities for the future. So how do you see your industry developing for the future? And then finally, how much do you know about the industry sector that you're considering? So for instance, a lot of disciplines cut across multiple sections, or sectors. You might be, a human resources professional or an accountant, and you might be thinking, oh, okay, I'm going to go into a consulting firm, or I'm going to go into an accounting firm, or I'm a lawyer and I'm going into a law firm. But actually, many disciplines cut across a whole wide variety of industries. So, you could be an HR person, an accountant, and a lawyer in many different kinds of industries. So have you really considered all the places where your skills might fit? Okay. So what are employers looking for? Broad range of things. We talk to employers all the time here within careers and employment. Um, on the left, we have the kind of soft skills, although I really hate the term soft skills. I like to call them real skills or human skills. So these are the kinds of things that employers are telling us that's important to them. The things that they really want to see in the people that they hire from a soft skills perspective. On the right side are more attributes. They're not exactly skills, but they more kind of part of who we are. So, these things like loyalty and honesty, even enthusiasm are often actually aligned to our values. They're aligned to our interests and who we are. So it's not just those hard technical skills or, clinical skills, if you're studying a health degree that employers are looking for, they're actually after, something so much more broad. And so it's important to consider any of these and think about, the role that they play in your job search. Okay, so going back to the research piece, so in thinking about where can we do this research, so we can see what's out there, a good place to start is with your career options guides. So these are guides that we create in Careers and Employment. We write these for you guys. And the career options guides, you'll find them in Career Hub under the Resources tab. And there's one for each of our degrees, and you can go through and have a look. And we kind of call this like the launch pad for your research. So we've pulled together a lot of relevant things all in one place so that you can have a look and kind of get started with your career research. So these are really useful to have a look at. Another idea of where to research is we can go on to company websites. So, this might be companies that we're aware of in our industry. It could also be the professional associations that are aligned to our industries and looking at where, where their members come from or who their members are. It can be company research on LinkedIn, which LinkedIn has just so many amazing ways to be able to search by discipline and to search up companies. And there's really good information to be had on there as well. Researching doesn't always have to be just you and your computer. It can also be talking to people. So you can talk to people here at uni, like your lecturers. You can talk to professional associations, career development consultants, attend events, approach organizations directly. So there's lots of different ways to get information. And we're going to talk also about the strategy of informational interviewing, which I think is probably the most effective job search tool that is out there. I know I've already said LinkedIn, but I'll say it again because it's worth saying. So reaching out to your contacts on LinkedIn and also viewing job listings on LinkedIn. So more and more, I think we're getting attuned to the fact that there's lots of jobs on LinkedIn. And so instead of maybe just going to Seek or going to those big online job platforms, that more people are looking to LinkedIn. And I've also seen on LinkedIn an increase in entry-level types of roles being advertised or graduate level types of roles being advertised as well. So it used to be a bit more senior, but now, there's a bit more there. So it's always worthwhile to have a look there as well. Vacancy websites, and we'll be going into that one in a sec. And of course, Google is your friend. So, you can find all kinds of information on your industry just by, doing some iterative Google searching. And I'm sure I don't have to tell that to all of you guys as the digital generation, but really important to have a look at that as well. And, the aim here is really to start to understand how you can uncover job leads ahead of other people. So what we would think of as, the seek.com type of job search that I was articulating to you guys before, that scattergun approach, it's also quite passive. You see an opportunity posted and you respond to it. And then when you see another one, you'll respond to that. But we also want to kind of flip it and get a bit active with our job search and, thinking about how we might even go to the level of creating our own opportunities. So I'll just talk a little bit about the different types of jobs, that'd be out there for graduates, because I think it's important to understand those differences, and often students don't. So graduate programs are often the most promoted types of graduate employment that we hear about when we're at uni. So graduate programs tend to be larger organizations. They will be national or multinational, and they're taking in lots of graduates all at the same time to go through a structured process. So a graduate program can last between 1 to 2 years. And because, there's so much involved with a graduate program, the recruitment process also takes a really long time. So the recruitment process typically starts the year before the job commences. So many graduate recruiters might start their graduate program recruitment in March of what would be your final year. And then you would take up the job in January, the year after you graduate. So really important to understand this. These roles are also really highly competitive. So it's important to have a very, very good quality application, and that every application is tailored to these organizations. Graduate programs include quite a lot of training. They might include rotations through various aspects of the company. They usually include mentorship, a professional development program, and what they are designed to do is to develop future leaders. Some organizations will offer an internship or vacation work at the end of the penultimate year as a feeder into their graduate program. So if you're thinking about your graduate job search, and you're on the slide thinking on the presentation today, looking at your graduate job search, be attuned that it's sort of from August of your penultimate year that you start to get into, the run up to these graduate programs. So, and it's not often that students are aware of how far back the process begins. So that's a bit about graduate programs, and please let me know if you have any questions as we go through. And I can see Deanne's posting up some really relevant links, so thanks for keeping up with that, Deanne. And still a little bit on the research front, I just wanted to talk through some other areas where you might be able to get some good labor market information. So we have a whole list of links on this platform, which will link you to different types and different reports, different types of information that might be relevant to your industry. The other website, which I've just noticed is missing off of here, which is probably the main one, is Labor Market Insights. So I would also, if Deanne, if you could pop a link in the chat for that, that would be great. And so I can see Ella is, what about us who are students? Is there any opportunity? So Ella, I'm not sure what you mean. Like, do you mean for graduate type jobs, or do you mean for casual part-time jobs? Most of our students at Griffith are, working alongside their studies. So there's lots of opportunities for jobs. And so if you're a little bit specific about what it is that you're looking for, I can probably guide you to, where would be the right place to look. And I'll just keep an eye on the chat and wait for a response to come up, unless you wanted to turn on your microphone, which you're very welcome to do. And I've got a question from Madhawanti. Is taking a longer time of approval common to internships as well and graduate jobs? Okay, so let me answer Elam's query first, and then Madhawanti, I'll come back and talk to you. So with students, generally graduate jobs are for graduates. So it'll be once you have completed the degree, you will be eligible for that type of work. So the bulk of graduate jobs are offered on a full-time basis, and most students aren't able to juggle full-time work and study, full-time study. So generally speaking, for a student job, you would look for a part-time job. There are quite a lot of jobs that are out there that are aligned to your discipline of study, but you work part-time. So that might be the kind of thing that you would target, Ellen. And then if you're looking for those graduate jobs and you're in your penultimate year, so the year before your final year, that would be the time to start looking for those internships. The kinds of internships that I was talking about, they're full-time internships, but they happen during the break from November through to February. So most students are able to work full-time during that point in time. So hopefully that makes sense. And Deanne's put up a link to Career Hub, which is a fantastic resource to look for jobs, because the jobs that you see on Career Hub are a little bit different to the jobs that you'll see on a seek.com or similar website. So Career Hub attracts jobs from local businesses around Griffith University. So the people that are listing jobs on Career Hub generally are specifically seeking Griffith students and Griffith graduates. So it can be a really good place to start your job search. Now, going back to Madawanti's query, is taking a longer time of approval common to internships? It can be, because if you're applying for those big internship, vacation internship programs, generally speaking, there's quite a bit of lead time. So a lot of organizations might start advertising their opportunities in August, but they will not be hiring until November. So they usually will let you know kind of October, end of September, whether you've got that kind of an opportunity. With the graduate program timelines, they often start advertising in February, and you probably will know by about July. So it can be a bit of a longer wait for sure. Started trimester 2, so graduate in the middle of the year. Okay, so Ewan, yes, if you graduate in the middle of the year, it can mean that you miss, but not always necessarily the graduate programs. So sometimes what will happen is if you're graduating in the mid-year, you still apply in February, and if they want to offer you an opportunity, they maybe can start you earlier. We've seen that quite a lot with companies where if they know that you're available earlier, they'll take you on earlier. Or alternatively, you can still go through that process, but you might just have to wait. If they, till the following year to start. So there definitely is, some flexibility there with some organizations. But remember, the thing I think to remember is that graduate programs, while to you guys, they maybe seem like the dominant jobs that are out there in the labor market, it's only actually a really small slice of all of the graduate jobs that are out there. It's just that the companies are bigger and they have more money and they can promote more. So it seems like graduate programs are everywhere, but especially in Queensland, it's about 80% of the market in Queensland that is actually small to medium enterprise. And so a lot of the jobs come from small to medium business. So don't just focus on the graduate programs, because you'll be missing so many incredible opportunities if you do. Okay, so yes, good point, Deanne. Thank you. So all right. So let me quickly jump back in, because I noticed that half our time is gone and I haven't gone through half the slides. So I need to move on. So okay, where to look for job postings. This is just a list of, it's not comprehensive by any stretch of the imagination, but I suppose what I did want to just talk you through a little bit is obviously some of the big companies that are on there. Obviously, Seek, Career One, Indeed, like those are all the companies that probably everyone knows about. Where the graduate jobs are, or the graduate programs rather, are advertised would be Grad Connection and Prospel primarily. We'll have those. If you are looking for a job in a graduate role in government, then you're probably going to head over to Queensland Smart Jobs or APS Jobs for the federal government. But it's really important to understand that there's also some specialist job boards that are particularly relevant, like Ethical Jobs, which has all jobs, that are around social justice and human well-being, and with organizations that are trying to do good in the world. And there's opportunities on Ethical Jobs at every level. So there's everything from part-time to graduate to, fully very advanced in your career. And also one that I didn't get a chance to put on this page is called SDG jobs, and that's jobs aligned to the Sustainable Development Goals. And so that's another one really great to have a look at as well. But lots of links to explore on the slides. It's also really important to understand that not only do you have to be hired by someone, and in a traditional employee-employer relationship in order to make a living. So there's a lot of really good freelancing opportunities out there as well. So why not channel your skills into something that you can kind of work on your own terms. And so the kinds of things that you might freelance, everything from photography all the way through to graphic design. Airtasker has a whole range of things like housework and resume writing and all kinds of things. So really, I think a really interesting and innovative way to potentially work on your own terms. I've also seen students sign up as like pet sitters and things like that. So last week we went away and we had a lovely Griffith student, stay at our place for the weekend, looking after our dogs. And we were very excited that we were able to help a student with employment that way. And she's with a company called Mad Paws. And so a lot of freelance pet sitters would work under an organization like that. And so, thinking about those kinds of opportunities as well. So it's really about being resourceful. The other thing to think about is that it's not just about the job boards, it's also about social media. So if you jump onto Facebook, you'll see, quite a lot of jobs pages. Now, there can be some great opportunities on here. But I would give one caveat. So I've been following these pages for quite a while, but what I've noticed this year, and I haven't noticed in previous years, is there's a lot more scammers on these pages. So, I think it's good to engage, but it's also really important to be careful and, to protect yourself. And, if something seems suspicious, just, don't respond. It also, though, might be a really good idea to join your local community group on Facebook. So if I'm thinking around the Nathan campus where I'm situated right now, Holland Park, Mount Gravatt, Tarragindi, Salisbury, all have really vibrant community groups on Facebook. And within those community groups, local businesses frequently post jobs. And so it just might be the local cafe, looking for someone to come, 20 hours a week or something like that. So these can also be really good resources. And I've also seen quite a lot of professional roles posted in the local community groups as well. So important to jump on, I think, and have a look at those too. All right, so this leads me to our third step, developing our job search strategy. So we did the first part where we understood ourselves and our values and our skills and our strengths and our interests. And then we've kind of explored the second part now, like learning about what kind of opportunities are out there, looking in some usual and unusual places. And now, but let's reflect on our research and think about, okay, well, what did I learn from that experience? What kind of jobs do I want? What appeals to me? What are the titles that I want to go after because they're relevant to my education and experience? Do I need to be situated close to campus because of transport, or am I a little bit more fluid? Can I go and explore a rural or a regional role? And then thinking about, obviously, that self, what are you able to offer them? So, what are the things that you've got that will make you really attractive? So I've got a few little things to talk about in terms of strategy. And, I guess my advice would be, we're not we're not picking and choosing. Ideally, if you're really keen to find a job, you want to be doing all of the above. So all of the tactics that I'm about to talk to you about. So the first one is to obviously apply for those advertised positions. So polish up your applications, make sure they're really strong. Use our resume review service, make a careers appointment to get help with your cover letters. Make sure you're always putting your best presentation forward, that you always are giving yourself the best possible opportunity. Make sure to set up job alerts on job boards. So LinkedIn, Seek.com, most of the major job boards have alerts. And so you can set the parameters of the kind of job you're looking for, and then they will notify you when something comes up that matches your alerts. Now, the cons of a strategy like this, as I said, it's passive, it's reactive. You don't have any control over it because you're just responding to whatever comes across, your vision. It is competitive. So the thing about advertised jobs is, of course, you're seeing them, but so is everyone else. And so that means that the competition for anything that's advertised is going to be much higher than working in some other ways, which I'm about to talk to you about. And of course, this process can take time because you are not in control of when you get shortlisted. So research does suggest that only 20 to 30% of vacancies are advertised at any given time. And so we call this the hidden job market. Which means, of course, we can see the tip of the iceberg, but there's a lot of really valuable stuff underneath that is invisible to us. And so these strategies that I'm about to talk to you about are really about making the invisible visible and, trying to get some of that job market feeling a bit less hidden. So we really want to get creative here and think beyond the typical stuff. So what I'm going to talk to you about is networking, informational interviewing, which is just a form of targeted networking, and also directly approaching employers who are of interest to you. So when we are looking for an opportunity, what it is important to understand is that we're actually looking for a person, because opportunities are attached to people. And so this maybe, raises the question, who is in your network? Who are you networked to that could potentially help? And so, when we think about what is networking, it's about building mutually beneficial relationships and trust. And there's definitely a perception out there that, oh, like we network with people, we swap business cards, and maybe we never talk to them again, but they're in our network. Or we connect with them on LinkedIn, but we never speak to them again. But active networking is different. It's about really maintaining interest in others and what they do. And having a network is something that over time is really going to help you develop your professional reputation. So many good reasons to engage in active networking. Access to information like hidden jobs, very important. It also gives you the opportunity to know more people who might recommend you for opportunities. And yeah, as I said, access those hidden opportunities. So what networks are you in? And so sometimes as a student, you might go, well, that's great, Nicole. I don't actually have any networks. I'm not in any networks at all. And, so how do I start? What do I do? And the thing is that no matter what, we're all already in networks. And probably if you sit back and think about it a minute, you probably have lots of people around you who would want to help. And so the list I've put on the slide is just a simple, sort of brain dump of networks that you might be in right now that you might not be harnessing very well. But thinking about, okay, well, how can I tap into, some of the benefit of being involved with these people. A lot of times with our networks, we aren't actually letting people know that we need help. We haven't told anyone we're looking for a job, and so they're none the wiser. And so they're not helping us, but they would if they knew. So can you tell people, hey, I'm on the lookout for an opportunity. If you see of anything, if you hear of anything, can you let me know? Can you talk to some other people that you might know? Even that simple action can have a lot of impact. One of my favorite, though, activities around networking is something called informational interviewing. And I'm wondering if anyone in the seminar today has done any informational interviewing before or knows what it is. Oh, I've got someone typing. Yay. Okay. Not yet. Nope, first I've heard of it. Okay, beautiful. Well, this is exciting because hopefully once you have this strategy, you guys will all go and use it. And so informational interviewing is essentially the process of identifying people whose jobs you would like to have. I mean, not that you'll steal their actual job, but you would like to be doing what they're doing in the future. They're in an industry that, you're excited about, or they're doing work that you think is really interesting, or they've developed their career in a really, fascinating way. And rather than just admiring those people from far away, instead we contact them. We might send them a message on LinkedIn, or we might write them an email and say, hey, I saw your profile on LinkedIn, or we met at that function last week. Your work seems really interesting to me. And, it's right in the area that I really want to grow my career. Um, would you have 15 minutes to have a chat with me? I've just got some questions, and I think that talking to you would really clarify a few things for me about my career. So that person says, yes, great, love to have a chat. And then maybe you go out for a coffee, or you drop into their office and you visit them at work, and you come and you have some specific questions prepared. What does a day, in your career look like? So tell me about your average day. What are the best things about this job? What are the worst things? What are some of the challenges that you're facing? What advice would you give to a graduate entering the field now? What challenges do you see for the future? So you ask these questions, but with a real focus on their journey and how they came to be where they are. And so what this allows you to do is quite targeted networking in, where you get to some really good one-on-one time with people who are highly relevant for you. Now, why is this better than going to a function or, sending someone an invitation on LinkedIn? I'm not saying functions and LinkedIn are not good. They are very good, but this can be better because it's very rare that you'll get an opportunity when you're at an event to have someone's one-on-one, uninterrupted, focused attention for 15 minutes. So an informational interview is a really good opportunity to make an incredible impression. The other thing about functions in particular, I think, is that they're not always relevant, So you might go to a networking function one night and find, oh my God, I've met so many incredible people and they're all relevant and I can see so many opportunities from here. But then you might go to a function, 2 weeks later and not have that same experience, where you go in and maybe you don't meet anyone super relevant, or you're not really sure that you have anything to follow up on. And, you're not in control of that experience. So it's kind of like the job search metaphor in a way too, about what you're in control of and what you're not in control of. So informational interviewing gives you control, because you're identifying the people that you want to talk to, you're identifying the organizations of interest, you're identifying the questions, the answers that you really need, and you have an opportunity to make an incredible impression. Now, the important thing to remember about informational interviews is that we also want to use that kind of idea of the 6 degrees of separation. So it's not just this person you're talking to, it's the people that they know. So at the end of the informational interview, you would want to say, thank you so much. That was so helpful. I learned so much from you. Can you think of anyone else in the industry that it would be good for me to meet? And you can even, kind of make the request a little bit more specific. I'm really hoping to learn more information about this. Do you know anyone in this field? Because the professionals that you're talking to are established, they're already networked, they already know people. It won't take them long to, if you've made a good impression, to say, oh, can you meet my friend, so and so? They just came for an informational interview. They'd love to talk to you. And then you can continue to build your connections from there. So when you meet the first person that you interviewed, when you meet the person that they introduce you to, you want to send a thank you note back to that first person, but then you want to ask that second person for another contact. And then you can get your network to grow and grow and grow in really relevant ways. The statistics tell us that informational interviewing also works really well. So we know that online job ads are more than, applicants for online job ads are more than 99% unsuccessful, because the the competition is so great. So probably everyone on the call today has had an experience that they've applied for a job online and they haven't heard, anything. I've had that experience. I know it's not very much fun. And that can be really common, but with an informational interview, the statistics are much more promising. So the statistics tell us that for every 12 informational interviews, there is one job offer. And so Daniel, just to answer your question, we post all the recordings of our seminars on the SharePoint site, but you don't even have to go looking for it because you've attended today. We'll be emailing it to you on Friday. So you'll have it right in your email box. So this is informational interviewing, and hopefully I've given you a bit of a hint about why it's really valuable. We also have a really wonderful resource, and it might be too much to ask, Deanne, if you can dig up our informational interviewing handout, which is on our website, which gives you this step-by-step. And there's also a really wonderful networking e-module on our website, which also goes through the step-by-step of informational interviewing. So those are some resources that might assist you there. So setting up career conversations, just another term for informational interviewing. These are our steps in brief. So we research who we want to talk to. We start with a really small number. We really want to contain that quite small. We identify who we want to approach, pick a specific person. Every time we communicate with someone that we want to do informational interviews with, we want it to be really tailored, that it's personal to them. Include your resume, and then schedule an appointment, whether it's face-to-face or, you could do it online via Zoom. Always make sure you follow up, keep a record. I would add this, I would add them to your LinkedIn network, keep in touch with them, send thank you notes when it's appropriate. If you read something interesting about their industry, forward an article, just work to really stay that top of mind. Okay. So really important, the networking piece is sorry, I went a bit too far. The networking piece is really important in job search. It's probably the most important thing that you can do. I don't know why I can't get this to go backwards. Here we go. Oh no. Okay, one more. There we go. Okay, so but also the information piece is really important too. So your professional identity will develop by engaging with other people in your industry, by being part of the professional association, by reading about your industry. So really, thoughtfully and intentionally engage. Talk to people working in your field, do an informational interview, ask for information and referrals, constantly seek feedback, ask what you can improve on, and always express gratitude. I really believe that last one so much, that a thank you goes a long way to opening doors. Okay, LinkedIn. So probably you guys are all on LinkedIn. I hope you're all on LinkedIn. We have a wonderful LinkedIn e-module that you can have a look at if you're just getting started on LinkedIn, and we're working on the advanced one now. But it is really important to establish your professional profile. Build your network on LinkedIn is such good advice. So add people that you're currently in touch with to your LinkedIn network. We're all changing jobs and industries and companies so much these days that LinkedIn is like pretty much the only almost foolproof way to keep your network connected to you over time and over change. Add your fellow students, add your lecturers, add your career development consultants, because everyone that you add, is going to pop up in your feed with information that's relevant to you. It's a great research tool as well. Many companies, I think up in the 90s, use LinkedIn as at least part of their recruitment process. So really important to jump on there and set up your presence there if you haven't already. We also know that most employers now are going to Google you before they consider shortlisting you. So what they see about you on the internet and is great, and LinkedIn gives you, you want it to be great, and LinkedIn gives you an opportunity to really curate your professional image, and to control one of the top search return items for your name. Yep, so many companies using LinkedIn, and hiring managers use LinkedIn to learn more about job applicants. We have had many students over the years who have been found by a recruiter on LinkedIn and invited to interview for a job that they didn't even apply for. So it really goes without saying that it's a really important resource. Okay, active job search on LinkedIn. We first want to talk about like our, like targeting those people. So in the same way that you might target the people for informational interviews, you can also use LinkedIn to do this. LinkedIn has a really cool alumni search tool. So you can also search for Griffith graduates in your industry, in your location. And this can be a wonderful way into informational interviewing by connecting with people who you have that common shared experience with. Use the company and pages and groups for further insights. And of course, keep looking at those jobs listings as well. All right, the last section is about career resilience, and I'm going to go through this really quickly because I've spent so much time on the practical stuff. So when we think about resilience, this is about your ability to adjust to change, and to be adaptive. It is something that we will all need for all of our lives because the workplace is undergoing and will continue to undergo so much change. And what it means is that if you are resilient, it enables you to be more in charge of your own career. So your career is not something that's happening to you, it's something that you control. So taking charge of your career, thinking about, accepting change as an opportunity for growth and challenge rather than always thinking of it as something bad. Understand the things that stress you out and take active steps to, to either control those factors or withdraw from those factors or manage those factors when you can. It is really important to understand, what you can control and what you can't, and to shift your focus. So rather than thinking and spending so much time focused on the things you can't control, think about what you can control, your thoughts and your actions, and use the resources around you as much as you can. So get feedback, whether that's from your peers or your supervisors, get people to help you reflect on your personal brand, and, look for opportunities to really grow. Mindset is super important as well. So we want to be able to counter any of those unhelpful thoughts. So I've put some quotes up in the slide. Maybe some of us can relate to, having the tendency to predict negative outcomes. And so really, this happens not because anything is wrong with you. We are actually evolutionarily predisposed to think negatively. Our ancestors needed to scan the environment for danger all the time. And so when we engage in negative thinking, this is just a natural attempt to control our situation. But it's not always helpful. And there are lots of unhelpful thinking styles like black and white thinking and, mind reading. So thinking that we know what everybody else is thinking. Oh, I should do this. Oh, I should do that. I must have done that. So, thinking about and looking at these negative or unhelpful thinking styles, we can probably all relate to all of them at different points in our life. And developing a positive mindset can help a lot with the job search because people who have positive mindsets believe that they have the ability to influence their own outcomes by learning through practice and through doing, rather than believing that you're just stuck in a particular place and you can never move out of that place. And so, by having a positive mindset, what tends to happen is that you're going to access more of the resources around you, make use of more of the resources around you, and end up with a more positive outcome. So, where you might catch yourself having a negative thought, might just stop yourself. How could I flip this? What could I think instead? Is this real? Is this correct? And, get some support if you need it. This is just a summary a little bit of our job search strategies. So our key elements of career well-being. So starting with the green, understanding who we are, clarifying our goals in relation to that. Understand what you need to take care of yourself during the process of working towards your career. Find support. Look for opportunities that play to your strengths, that give you energy, reward yourself along the way, and make sure you're always committing to your self-care. That positive attitude will hopefully help you prepare for the long game and know that rejections aren't personal, and help you be persistent. And that you might hear some no's along the way, but eventually you're going to get to the yes. And finally, just get out there and do it. And if you need support, Careers and Employment is here for you. You can make careers appointments. There's loads of stuff that we can help you with. So I've just put up a little QR code if anyone wants to scan that. This is how you can access all of the different services that we've got. And Career Hub, there's another QR code there to access Career Hub. And as I said, these slides will come to you by email tomorrow. So that's it from me at 10:58. I'm just going to give myself a little pat on the back for making it in under the hour. I hope this presentation was useful for you. Thanks, Ellen. I'm glad it was useful. If anybody has any questions, I'm really happy to answer those. And of course, if anyone has to go, I completely understand if you need to jump off, but happy to answer any questions in our last couple of minutes. Thanks, everyone, for your kind words.